Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Up and Running with ZBrush. So let's get up and running with the industry standard for digital sculpting. So to our industrial designers, mechanical design engineers, let's add digital sculpting to your CAD arsenal with ZBrush. Okay?
Diba?
Yeah, Sir Aiken, good evening.
Yes, good evening. My name is Aiken Peyang. So I am a 3D artist. I focus more on modeling, sculpting, and texturing, and also do a bit of 2D art from time to time, some feature art, character art. But anyway, so the topic for today is ZBrush. So we're going for over the basics. So first things first. So ZBrush is a 3D sculpting software. Well, as most of you already know. So why do people use ZBrush for? Um, ZBrush kasi, maganda sa ZBrush, it can handle heavy poly meshes. That's why it's usually used for sculpting. It can handle really detailed 3D models, like fine detailing. Okay? So ZBrush is used in a lot of industries, so mostly for film industry, visual effects, so character, feature art, assets, things like those. It's also used in game development, obviously. So for a lot of video games, animation, and now it's being more commonly used in 3D printing. A lot of miniatures, statues. Um, but aside from these industries where it's mostly used in the production pipeline, it's also used in other industries like engineering actually, because nowadays there are such thing as metal 3D printers. So yeah, 3D printed metal objects, maybe for replacement parts, things like those. And surprising enough, it's also used again in jewelry actually, sometimes. Because again, I said 3D printing plus 3D modeling sculpting, lots of things you can do with it. Also used at times for prosthetics. For So in any case, well, that's the end of the slideshow. Sige, uwi na. Well, anyways, joke lang naman. Siyempre naman, demo ito. So, may lang yung slideshow. Ano kala ninyo? Anyways, sige, off to the software. So first things first, so this is ZBrush. I'm using ZBrush 2021, yung version lang ko ngayon. So the first things you have to understand is the interface. So important parts of the interface you have to remember. So when you open ZBrush, it starts off like this. Ito yung pinaka-default niya. So on here on the left side, can you see my mouse? Dito ba yung mouse mo?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Visible.
Anyway, so here you have your brushes over here on the left side. Brushes small. These are the stroke is basically it's like do normal painting. You can pick either by freehand, color spray. Well, anyways, a minute. Okay, next other important parts you have to remember is on the right side. So usually when you're starting to sculpt, obviously you need the subject to sculpt first. So another software I recommend uh, is this one, your ref. This is software often used for work also. It's called PureRef. Hanapin ko dito natin. So PureRef is a software for used for gathering all the references. So you can check your site from here. It's another site I recommend you check out if you have access. Yeah. Anyway, just Google na po ninyo later. So PureGraph. Anyway, so let's pick a subject to work on. So file. Actually, I prepared something here. So let's use this one as a subject. There we go. Ito ba? Okay. So let's use this as subject for the talk ngayon. Okay. So let's back to ZBrush. Let's scale the window a bit para medyo mas kita yung ano. Kasi natin konti. Oops. There we go. Okay, so usually first step, so after I gathered my reference, so we'll use this dragon antro character thing. So first step is I should start, let's say, with a cylinder or whatever object's closest to. So let's say the head. So it reminds you for cylinder shape, so we'll use that. Left click, any space on the screen, and a cylinder should pop up. There we go. And the first thing I would do usually is make poly 3D mesh over here. Okay, left click. There we go. Wait. Wait, baliktad siya. There we go. Then click on edit. So once in your edit mode, to rotate your object, click on right click, hold on to the right button, and you can rotate from there. Okay, wait. Also, another important thing is material color. Let's change it to a lighter color for mosquito. Let's change it to basic material. Anyway. Is everyone following so far? Is my screen back? Oops. Oops.
Yes, learning a lot. Following, sir.
Okay. I have multiple windows kasi. I'm using a dual screen so medyo naro sa dual screen. Anyway. Okay, next. Also another important thing part when you're sculpting is this one. You see this head here? So this will at least here it can keep track of what we are right now. So right now it's at a front view. As you can see, the head is looking with a forward face, so that means it's a front view currently. Okay. To change your view, you can either click on these arrows over here. See this parang red green arrow. Okay, let's add another object para medyo halata. So another window you have to be aware of is the subtool windows. Every object, every mesh in ZBrush kasi is a separate subtool. To add a new subtool, you click on append over here, and then you pick an object. And let's just go with maybe a cube for now. There we go. And let's move the cube for mosquito. So to move objects, you go to here. Your manipulation tools are over here, upper left. So you got your edit, draw, move, scale, and rotate. So for now, let's click on move. So we can move this a bit. Just move it up. Just move it to the left for mosquito. There we go. And then you go back to draw so that you can rotate it again. Remember when you're rotating, you have to make sure you set on draw. It should be highlighted here. That way you can rotate it. Ayan. So these are the few ways to change your angle. So you can right click to rotate, hold on to it, and just move your mouse around. Or you can also do that, right click, hold on to your mouse, and shift. What shift does, it automatically locks your camera to a planar view. So you got side view, front view, and top view. So this is why this head here is very useful because it tells you which angle you are so that you won't get lost while you're sculpting since you're only working in a 3D space. Okay. Also to move your object, your camera, um, Hold on to Alt on your keyboard and right click. So this moves your camera around. Okay. Anyways, so that's when I add objects. So append, move tool. Okay, next. Scale. Scale is obviously changing. Scale is for changing your size. So if you click on this middle one over here, it will scale it in uniform, meaning it will scale the object in all directions. So let's say if I click on this one, left click, move my mouse to the left, makes it smaller. If I move my mouse, if I do the same thing again, left click, and move my mouse to the right, increases the size uniformly. If you click on the middle, see this point square thing in the middle? Okay, and so everyone following so far? Messages. Let's finish the messages. Okay,
Sige, continue na, sir.
there we go. So let's go back to draw muna. So we already got the move, rotate. Also to move, same thing. You can either the cube in the middle over here. Also, you click on the one on the corners. See this time edge corner. There you go. So let's say you want to move it to the up. You can either click on the arrow key so that you can control only one direction. Let's say you just want to move it up. You click on the green one. There we go. Or down. You'll move it in one direction. So let's say you want to move it to the left or right side only. You see the blue arrow here. So you left click on that and move it left and right. If you want to move it in like let's say green and the blue arrow, just click on this one, no corner, and then just move it from there. So that's the move, scale, rotate. To rotate the object, you make sure you click on rotate and see this ring. There you go. You just click on that and you move your mouse around. Make sure you're holding to the left mouse key when you're rotating objects. But let's say you want to rotate it to, let's say, a certain degree, let's say 90 degrees, 45, something like that. Let's say you want to rotate this to the 90 degrees flat, to the right side. Same thing earlier as how you rotate the camera when you're shifting. Rotate to the right and hold on to the shift. Do you notice the negative numbers like negative 35, 45 appearing below the circle? So if you hold it to shift kasi, you can set it that it will rotate every like 5 degrees so that you have better control. If you need like a specific angle. Or if you want to go free form, like just eyeball it, estimate it, just let go on shift. See? So it really depends on the situation. But let's say I want to rotate it maybe here. Let's say this is the head. I'm making the head for now. Let's put it a let's see what's it up again. It's a dragon. Okay. So we're gonna discuss the move, scale, rotate. Follow pa so far. Okay, so let's go back to draw. Also, when you're sculpting, make sure you're set on draw. This one's highlighted. Because if you don't set it on draw, you won't be able to sculpt this. So you but always double check what your settings are. If you're set to rotate, scale, or move. And make sure your edit is highlighted. Okay. Anyway, so let's start sculpting maybe this portion head movement. We'll start from there. So starting from the top view, let's go to geometry, dynamesh. Okay, good. Another important thing you have to keep remember is your poly count. To check the poly count of your mesh, or your polygon, you go over here, active total points. This is very important. Because the thing about ZBrush is when you're sculpting in 3D, the higher the poly count your object has, the you can sculpt in finer detail, but it's going to be harder to do big sculpts like big forms, and vice versa. If you have a lower poly active point count, it's going to be easier to do big forms, but it's going to be harder to do finer details. So I'll try to do an example. I'm not telling you what I mean. So it's just a bit bigger for mas kita. So also press on Shift F. There we go. Shift F will show you the wireframe of your polygon. So right now, this is the wireframe. There we go. Okay, I need to background. So let's change the background to go to a lighter color from a skipping object. To change background of your canvas, you go to Document over here and Background. And also to change the size para mag full screen siya, Document, we'll go to New Doc. There we go. That's there. So what you doc the a new document does is basically it discuss your canvas size to whatever your screen size of your ZBrush currently is. Anyways, so Shift F. Anyways, so what's it? Oh yeah, Dynamesh. So yeah, I'll explain to you what I mean by active points and such. So there are a few ways to increase the active points of your mesh. One way is through using Dynamesh over here. So what Dynamesh does is, depending on your resolution, over here, you have a slider here, it will increase the poly count of your object or decrease. So lower resolution means lower poly count. So let's say if we hit 32 and maybe hit Dynamesh, so that is at 10,000. You notice the poly, if you also notice the wireframe of the polygon, it also changed to a, it was changed. Di ba kanina ano na siya, parang 400 something poly count. So, tumaas siya ng 10. So, let's say, if I bring it to, let's say, hindi ba sa 200? Hit Dynamesh again. Let's do some sculpting muna. Just to, there. You see the active point is also increased again.
So I can it's like pixels.
Yeah, so
If photo, yep.
parang similar sa pixels sa photo nga. Yeah, similar idea. Anyway, so here I'll explain to you now what I mean. You have to be careful with active points with sculpting. Like I said, you have to treat 3D sculpting, yung resolution mo, it's like, you're familiar with clay, right? Pag clay, pagbasa, it's easy to shape big forms. Pero if it's too wet, it's so hard to do fine detail. Pero it's a lot harder naman for big forms. It's like vice versa. It works the same way here in ZBrush or 3D sculpting. So let's, flatten natin muna siya. Iba natin. Iba natin resolution. There we go. Let's say you're sculpting something and let's say there's a bump here. Let's say may buko dito yung object. So yung madali lang sculpt. And let's say nagkamali ka, you wanna like flatten it muna or soften it. At a lower resolution, it's a lot easier. You know. But the problem with that lower resolution is, well, let's say you want to do really fine intricate detailing, like cuts, curves, like super fine detailing. It'd be very hard with a very low resolution. Like, yeah, as you can see. But if you increase the resolution, let's say, let's bring it up to maybe 300,000 plus resolution with it. I mean, poly count, or poly active points. See, it's a lot easier to do finer detailing again. But the problem at higher resolutions is If you're, let's say, nagkamali ka, let's say, you sculpted in a line here and you want to get rid of it. Pansin niyo po, parang it's hard, hindi kasi siyang malleable. So that's why when you're sculpting, you have to be careful of your active points in there. You just have to keep that in mind. So that's one way of increasing your controlling the resolution of your model is using Dynamesh. Other option is, let's make a new cube on makita ninyo. This is a new cube on the subject. Okay, let's use this one. So one option is to Dynamesh. Other option is going under geometry. You go under divide. See this? So what divide does is exponentially divides your mesh into subdivision levels. So let's say right now, again, we're back at 482. So this cube has 482 active points. So if I hit on divide, notice the active points to master. So naging close to 2,000. And nagkaroon siya ng subdivision level over here. Follow? Okay, so let's say, we need a higher resolution ulit. Divide ulit. Check active points. If you notice, tumaas siya ulit. So it jumped to 8,000. And your division level jumped to 3. Now, the advantage of doing it this way, let's say you need a higher poly count mesh, you can control your division level. So let's say you need to sculpt big forms muna. Sabihin natin. Let's say we need to sculpt big forms like a big object, cube, whatever. Sabihin mo bukol siya. Tignan natin. Oops. Sabihin natin may bukol siya. So may there. So, let's say nagkamali ka ulit. Parang gusto mo bawasan. At least that. Okay. Here, pwede siya bawasan. Kasi kamali ka ulit, pwede siya bawasan. Let's say you want to erase a big mistake you did. So what you can do from here, you can bring down the subdivision level, bring it down to its lowest. Let's make it 2 na lang. Let's say 2, para mas mababa yung poly count ninyo, you have a lower subdivision count, you have a lower poly count, and which makes it easier to clean up your mesh again. Follow? Okay, follow so far?
Yes, yes. Is there any shortcut key for doing divide or
Control V. But insani kasi
okay.
ako click on the kasi button. Yung
Awesome.
shortcut is just gotta just to click on the button kasi. Anyways. So let's divide it a bit higher para we can define the detail. So right now it's a 2 million poly count. So see, so this advantage of doing some poly count. Let's say my finance ganyan. So let's say you wanna nagkamali ka dito, let's say you didn't want to do that. You can bring down your subdivision level to maybe a lower one. Let's say number 2 or let's say 4. And you can smoothen it there. So that's one option. And you can go back up again, little by little, until huli mawala siya. Anyways, oops. So that's two options. You can either use, ito natin ha, you can use Dynamesh, which is under geometry over here. Just make sure when you hit Dynamesh, you're keeping an eye on resolution and your active points. This is very important to keep track of your active points and your total points. Active points is the number of polyphases of your current object selected. So right now we're on the cube, so it has 500k. Okay, next. So Dynamesh is option one. Second option is you can go under geometry and hit divide. At least with divide, you can control the subdivision level. So that's two options. Anyways,
Mm.
let's practice copying sea dragon. Tanggalin natin muna itong cube na to. Bye bye. Let's get you first. Okay. Let's okay. Let's start with the head. Usually kasi when I'm sculpting, this I usually do things eh. I use actually use another software. Maya is Autodesk Maya. I do some rough modeling there and I bring it to ZBrush. But since our talk is about ZBrush, I'm gonna try to do as much as possible everything in ZBrush as much as I can. Anyway, so if you're looking from the top view, so medyo narrow head, yeah. So few ways to sculpt. So let's go on the brushes now. So your brush, so when you click on here on your brush, let's say, oh, let's see, okay, here we go. So these are your brush palettes. So these are your brushes. Usually, what I advise if you're new to ZBrush, try to use the basic brushes muna. Don't go crazy with the fancy brushes. Just get used to the workflow first. So since this is the bare basics for now, we'll use the clay tubes brush. No, this one's for now. Usually use clay tubes. Okay. 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 Other settings you should be familiar with. See this Z add. Well, Z add is basically what it says. It adds as you're sculpting. Z sub is it subtracts as you're sculpting. So if you look carefully, nababawasan naman siya. So also be aware when you're sculpting, if it's set on ZBrush or ZBrush, it's set on Z add or Z sub. You could also change the intensity. Right now, its default is set to 20, as you can see here. But let's say it's too strong, you need to lighten it. You could bring it down maybe to let's start maybe 5. Yeah, 5 seems right. Okay, so this is add. Also, another important thing under transform, assuming you're sculpting something symmetrical, to save on time, activate symmetry here. Click on it. That way, whatever is sculpting on the left side, it should sculpt identically on the right side. So in case you're sculpting something that's symmetrical, makes it a lot easier. Okay. So these are the brush settings you have to be aware of. And brush size is over here. It's the draw size. So draw size is your brush size. Now, parang Photoshop, yung paintbrush mo, ito yung, this is your draw size for your for your brush. So, other things you have to be aware of is stroke, what's set on. When you say freehand, well, basically freehand is just like a normal brush. But if you set it like, let's say maybe chorus, let's say spray. Spray will act like a spray. Well, so it's a bit widespread. Also, another thing you have to be aware of is your brush alpha here. So the alpha affects the shape of your brush. Right now, on default, usually is a square. Usually, if you open ZBrush, that's their default. But you have options like a blur around. You even have pattern options here, which comes with ZBrush. It's their default usually. So let's see. Let's try using the alpha. Let's try using the shape alpha as well, so that you'll see what I mean. Let's using the arrow, so they'll be more visible. Okay, oops. Geometry. That's nothing. Let's increase this a bit more to give it a bit more solution to work with. Okay, always check on your active points. Good, good, good. No. Uh, but it's still reading. No. Okay, there. Okay, I think this is a bit too high. Let's bring it down to maybe just, I think maybe okay, let's just bring it up to maybe, yeah, I think 5M is a bit too high. I think 700 should be. Uh, let's just set to maybe, yeah, that should do. Okay, so I set my brush off with an arrow, then I set my stroke to, let's try setting to drag rectangle. So what drag rectangle does, if you hold it to the left click, instead of mag-stroke siya na parang brush, you can drag the shape onto the object instead. If you hold it to the left click and move your mouse, there you go. So those are your stroke options and alpha options. What else? Anyways, let's go back to the stroke first. Hmm. Okay, so those are your brushes. Other tools I often use. If you notice the head of this thing is a bit narrow, so you can cut this one here actually using the trim tool. So hold it to your shift, control, and click on this box. When you left click on it, there should be options on trim curve. So what usually trim does, it cuts apart depending on what you select. I usually go with rectangle, muna for something like this. Let's just get the snout a bit. So yeah, let's try to lessen this now. Look at the snout shape. Then, but you have to be aware. The trim tool doesn't work on symmetry, so everything with trim things usually go back to mirror and weld so that it'll be symmetrical again. So there's a little bit more of a snout shape here. So now we can actually start sculpting. Oops. Does everybody follow so far? Uh, yeah.
Yep, learning a lot.
Let's go back to the. Okay, I'm more used to using square alpha thing. Okay, okay. Obviously, we won't be able to finish the whole character thing. Yeah, but just a quick down on the money of the flows. So right now, as you can see, when I try to sculpt, I think I set it a bit too high. So set my polymesh too high. This is why I said you have to be aware of your active points because the higher your active point is, it's harder to sculpt big forms. So you need to bring this down a bit. I think 600K is a bit too high. So something about having a hard time sculpting the bigger forms. Let's bring it down to resolution maybe 80. Then sculpt a bit on the object. Just a quick sculpt. And then go outside the object. Then out. Oops, sorry. Oops. Control left click, just anywhere outside the object you're sculpting, and then let go. So what this does is, since I set my new resolution to 80 from 300 earlier, it should bring down the poly count. So if you watch carefully at the points, it should go down. Yeah, so it went down to like 52K. So 52K, that should make it easier to work with again. Just open the bigger forms. So now, let's go back to the dragon head. There we go. So the idea kasi when you're sculpting, try to get all your big shapes in. Don't think about the small details yet. Those details come in last. So it's just like normal sculpting, actually, when you're sculpting. Oh, when you're sculpting in real clay, you try to get the actual shapes first. Don't think about the scales, the details yet, whatever. Just try to get all your basic forms in first. Yeah, so this is for the dragon head. Yeah, this is a really rough, dirty shape. Let's increase the intensity a bit because it's a bit more intense. Oh, too high. Let's set it to maybe 10 should do. Yeah, still too high. That sucks. Yeah, that should do. So yeah, for now, just like get the shapes in, whatever. So don't worry about it being like really, really looking super detailed. Just get in the forms, whatever you're trying to solve. Just gonna focus on the head for now. Yes. Yeah. Now let's say you see that horn. So I think that's better a separate object. Yeah, we'll just got this. Yes. So yeah, we'll just put in place. Just get the shape. Don't think about the details yet. Just get the forms in. And and every once in a while, I usually hit Dynamich again to make sure my polygons are as clean as possible. Now, for example, for the horns here, like the one on the head and on his nose, I will probably have a separate mesh for something like that. So we'll go back to append. Under subtools, we'll go back to append. Yeah, so you can use a cone. Since, oh, sorry, let's move it to the front. Here we go. There's a cone. Let's scale it a bit. Mhm. Also important when you're working is your subtools here. So this eye icon tells you if the object's visible, so you can hide objects. One way to hide them is you can turn, example, let's say I want to hide this head thing. Let's say I want to focus on the horn first. Few options is you can go under solo, which all hides everything else and only selects whatever you're working on. So let's say I want to work on the horn, so select solo, it hides everything else. Or other option is you can go under your subtools, see this eye symbol. So when the object's visible, you have the eye symbol here. So let's say I want to work on the horn now. So I wanna, so I wanna hide everything else. You click on the eye symbol. There you go. So that's two options. You can either hide individual subtools or meshes, or let's say you already have a lot of parts and you don't have time to like hide each one. You can just click on solo here, which hides everything except for whatever you have selected currently. Follow so far? Anyways, let's turn this on. Let's scale this down a bit first. That should be right. Yeah, it looks good. Then let's add another object with the horns here, this long horns. Let's use a cylinder. Let's start from a cylinder. There we go. So move, we go. So rotate that, let's angle it a bit. Mhm. Mhm. There we go. Also, just getting the rough estimation now. We're just getting the rough estimations. We'll just detail this later. Okay. Okay. Another important thing is masking. So let's say, as you can see, the horn is extended. So you need to extend this part. So you can either scale it, alright, or in this situation, I'd probably go with masking part of it and extending from there. Okay. So draw. So to mask objects or parts of meshes, you go under. You make sure your cursor is outside the object you're trying to mask. Click on Control, and as you notice, your tools here changed again. Your brushes. So change it to a mask. You can either set freehand. So when you set to freehand, it's the same as like you're using a normal paintbrush, but you're masking. Or I would probably go for curve from here. So curve you can control from what point to what point. As you can see, there's a line. Yeah, so that way I can only mask this part. So whatever is um, highlighted, that's going to be the one's going to be affected. So let's say if I move this, so the highlighted part or darkened area should not be affected. So if let's say move this lightened area, though it's not highlighted, should be the one that's affected. So you can see if I move it around, there you go. But since you want to extend it the other direction, to reverse your mask, you click left click outside your object and control. There you go. It reverses your mask. So that way, now you have this part selected instead of the other half. So that way we can extend this. There we go. More like the horn thing. There we go. So take this a bit. Try to get the shape in. Move this around. Everyone follow so far? Yeah.
It's turning into a reality na.
More or less. For now, we're just important getting the basic shape for now. Details will come in last. Just get the basic shape of the entire thing. Don't think about details yet. Kapag sa painting then or in real life clay, you try to get the shape of everything first. Don't think about the details yet. And then let's up mask it first. Also, another reason why I dynamesh often is when you move things around, you have to remember you're always working in a 3D space now. So 3D objects here are made of polyfaces and such. So remember, since I only move this part, so you have a big gap here. The problem if I keep extending this, if I keep extending this as of now, it's not gonna be smooth. As you can see, since I still have, I need more polyfaces here and here to make it smoother. And that's where Dynamesh comes in. Because, go back to Dynamesh, we go, here we go, here. So, it, it's distributes the polyfaces again evenly. So that way, you can sculpt it again. That's why you have to be very careful when you're dynameshing. Always keep track of your active points every time when you're sculpting, once in a while. Anyways, let's bring it on a bit to make it easy to sculpt in. Yeah, that should be it. Always try to give a mesh. So let's go back to this is the move tool. Let's fix the middle of the horn a bit. Because right now it's a bit too angled. Yeah, maybe one here. Maybe somewhere there. Anyway, this will do for now. This is a marker anyway for it's just a marker for now. We're just trying to get the curve in. Don't think about too much of the details. Let's curve it a bit more for the tip around here. Because it notice it curves a bit pointed here. Just for the inch. Let's curve it a bit. Okay. Curve it a bit more. Curve it a bit more. There we go. And mask again. Masking, clear. Geometry, hit dynamics again to smoothen out your body faces that way. Easy to work with. Okay. Let's rotate this part. There we go. So, so unclear mask again. Then dynamesh again. So just keep doing that. Then with the sculpting here, we need a bit more mask here because it's a bit too thin now. I'll set it to maybe. Oh, wait, no. Go back to club clay buildup. Let's bring this down. Intensity, let's make maybe 3. What we should do? Okay. Increase your brush size. So increase your brush size, you can either from draw size or you can click on your left bracket or right bracket. So it's similar to Photoshop then. Similar to Photoshop, you have your left and right bracket to increase size. So it can go for the simple tools. Anyways. So let's add a bit of film on here because it's a bit thinned out of this area, so let's add a bit here. No, just get the shape, don't think of the details. Just get the shape, that's all that matters for now. Mm. We'll fix those curves and such later. So now if you notice the horns is a pointed tip here. So one way to get that pointed tip is there's a brush here called the snake hook or here. So what the snake hook does is it basically it pulls out the mesh, but at the same time it tapers it. So let's say if I click on here, left click, there. So yeah, why it pulls it out at the same time pointed tip. So that's one way to get this pointed horn here. But let's increase the draw size a bit more since it's a bit too small. There we go, much better. Yeah, I think the curve needs a bit higher. Yeah, from this angle, so I should do. Mhm. There we go. Then soften it again. There we go. So there we go. It's a bit of a pointed tip now. Anyway, so follow so far. Anyways, we'll fix the horn later. Let's go back to the head. Okay, so now we can place the head. Let's go back to the play brush tool, play brush tool. Uh, I need a bit higher setting. Let's get to maybe 12, 8. That should do. Yeah, much better. So just try to get the shape. Don't think about the details too much. Now let's add a bit of eyeball. Let's add let's add a sphere so at least we know where the eyes are. There we go. So this will be the eyes, so at least we know where the eyes are. Okay, let's change this to maybe a different color so that you'll be more visible. So to change object's color, you go on see this palette under your basic material. Right now it's set to white. Let's say you want to change it to black. Okay. So you pick a color here, and then under make sure RGB here. You have to be aware material and color are two different things in 3D space. Color is RGB, given here. So I just want to change the color to black. So click on RGB. Make sure your intensity is also the right setting. Right now it's set at 100%. That's usually the default. And then you go to color and then fill object. So when you go back to a different color, there, you can use now black. But as I said, you have to be aware that material color is different from material. So right now it's at the basic material, but let's say I want to change it to something like gold texture. Siyempre, iba ang texture ng gold. It's shiny and such. So you pick the closest thing. But ZBrush is a built-in name. So here. So right now I selected the gold material. Now if make sure your M is selected this time for material. So if I hit color again and fill object, it should change it to gold texture. So make sure MRGB is selected. There we go. So it changes it to a gold texture. But let's say you want it to be like gold texture, but you want it to be a different color. So again, make sure MRGB selected here over here. And then just pick a different color, maybe. Let's say you want it gold. I don't know, maybe green. Color, fill object. Follow so far? Yes. So back to basic material. Yes, this is where the eyes. I just where the eyes are. Just a marker for now. Okay, we'll move it here. Yeah. And from here, I'll probably go to geometry again, modify topology, and hit mirror and weld. So what mirror and weld does, it duplicates whatever on your one side and duplicates it to the other side. So that way, let's say you have one eyeball on the left side and you want it to be the same on the right side. So just hit mirror and weld. Okay. It should transform active symmetry. That way, whatever you do on one side, it should be symmetrical on one or other side. Okay, just that. Alright. Yeah, it's just a placeholder for now. We'll fix that. So let's go back to our head. Select our head again. It's this one. To double check what part you're selecting or what object, I usually press Shift F. That way at least I know I'm selecting the right object. Okay. Let me build up. Let's look at the dragon. So this is important, just take the forms, don't think of the detail. So I'm not trying to detail this yet. Um, so I think I can set it to a bit lower or something. Four, yeah, four. So far, any questions so far? Does everybody follow?
Yep, yep, learning a lot.
So now it's beginning to look like a dragon, whatever this thing is. Dragon tentacle, whatever. Let's think of big shapes first. Don't think about the small details yet. Uh-huh. Let's fix this one a bit because it's a bit distracting. A bit distracting. Let's move you here. A bit distracting, just floating around randomly. Let's max this a bit. Let's bring down the horn a bit so it'll be a bit more. Okay. Masking, clear, dynamic again. Yes. Yes. I'll just do it. I'll fix you later. Yes, yes. So just keep sculpting. Let's get a bigger dragon thing. So this is a bit. Oh, oops. There we go. Just get the shapes in. Don't think about the details. Just get the forms in. Shouldn't have it. So let's add a few more things. Put this part in. Let's get the big things in. Okay. Let's get the door. There we go. It's going to look better now, like an actual return to sculpt. So usually, what I do for the eyes, I usually do the eyelid separate. I'm just mostly doing that way. So I go on the append sphere. This how you usually do the eyelids. Most people they can do it in one go, but for me, I'm just more used to doing it this way. Doing the eyelids separate first. Does it even have eyelids? No, it doesn't. Anyways, so we need to have the eyelid first. So what I do from here, so the sphere, then I would cut it. We said in the twin curve earlier. Either I would go for a twin curve, use the rectangle option. That or other option is you can use the curve tool. You should cut it also. Yeah. So we move it there. This is for the eyelids. Mhm. Okay, so Dynamesh again. Geometry, Dynamesh. I need to be higher. It's a bit too low. A bit on. Ah, that should do. Let's maximize this. Move tool, lower your brush a bit. That will only be moving parts. Set it to freehand. Oops. A bit higher setting. Density. That's okay. Higher setting. Then we go for the lower part. Now for the lower part of the eyelid, you can mirror this under deformation. So under deformation, you have other tools you can use to manipulate your object. Um, the ones I use commonly, the ones I use usually is the mirror. Let's say I need the lower part for this eyelid thing. Click on Y. Y is your top down. Sorry. Set it to Y over here. There. Then hit mirror. And then unlock. Click on this unlock uh, pivot point, and click on this sorry, center. This what this does, it centers your pivot point to the object again. And press F to zoom out and make the zoom in on the object you selected. So you should have your eyeball there. And move it in position. Oops. Lock again your pivot point. This lock symbol here. And then you move it back up. So now you have an eyeball. You have an eyelid. I said for now, don't think about the details too much. What's important is you get basic forms. Just let all your shapes in. Don't think about the small details. Just fit them all in. I think the eye is a bit too small. Let's make it bigger. But first, we need to add a bit more space for the eyes. So let's sculpt a little more in. Go back to your brush tool, set it to play again. Let's add a bit more space because right now we need more space for the eyeball. Uh, yeah, that looks better. It's nothing there. Yeah, that looks better. Let's move this. Oops. Let's make this a bit bigger. We need more space. Mhm. Put this a bit here, then the eyes a bit more. Looks better. Then mirror again. Mirror and weld so that you have both sides symmetrical. There we go. So let's fix this area a bit, the ones around here. So we have a weird protruding horn thingies here. So again, go back to the snake hook. Use the snake hook again. Snake hook. Let's start with this one maybe. Oops. We need a bigger brush, so we increase the size a bit. Oh wait, I'm selecting the wrong object. Also to check on what object you're selecting, it should appear here under your tools. Let's say I have the horn selected. So it should appear here on the tools, picture of the horn. Or let's say I have this head thing selected. So it should have the picture of the horn thing, the picture of the head thing. So that's one other way to check. Or like I said, I'm more used to clicking on Shift F to double check what I'm selecting because it, yeah, it's a lot easier for me this way. Uh, Oops. Increase your brush size. No, we're getting somewhere. Just increase, increase. No, I'll fix that later. Oops. Let's put the mask. Now let's mask this bottom part so that I don't accidentally pull it also. So mask, curve, then select the bottom part. There we go. That way, like I said earlier, masking whatever is not highlighted, that's going to be affected. So hopefully all the bottom part shouldn't be affected. So let's add in this second horn thingy here. So this is just using the snake hook again, pull. Let's see. Maybe around there. Yeah, so we got a bit of an issue here. We'll just sculpt that to fix that area. So let's unmask again. Unmask or clear. And again hit dynamics. Geometry. Whoops. Let's save it again. Oops. Geometry, dynamics. Okay. Sculpt. Oops. Other option, please. Sculpt, please. That's more smart work. You try to sculpt the basic shapes of everything first. You don't try to detail everything immediately. Maybe just I could show you. Nice. Okay, other useful tools. Let's use the horn as example. Let's go back to the horn. So if you notice the horn here also has a bit of a tapered tip. So medyo it's tapered here. So one way to get that is using the crease option. But first, let's add a bit of thickness to the horns first, so that it's very good. Let's add some thickness to the horns first before I show you the crease brush. Is there any questions so far? This to maybe the. So let's say we want this tapered a bit. Another useful tool is the pinch tool. Under brush, P, pinch over here. So what the pinch does is basically, as it says, it pinches a corner. So let's say I want to get a really sharp edging here like the one in the artwork. Yeah, we can use a pinch tool. As you can see. Mm-hmm. Oops. Pinch tool. What's the question again? Okay. Yeah, most of my samples are for 3D print. Oops. Ah. Usually art station. Just let me see this first. No the example. Let's just save this first. Let me load one of my latest 3D sculpts I did for 3D print. Latest one should be. JD naman. I'll just show later. Anyways, so what is ZBrush? As I mentioned earlier, it's a 3D sculpting software. Anyways, so where are we? Okay. Now for the body portion, how we usually go about this is the same idea. Yeah, I try to build the basic shapes first. Let's say this is gonna be for the what is this as a guide for the torso. So this is for the neck. Okay. So let's say I'm building up on the torso. So I always think of big shapes first. So the same as how I did the head. Let's start with chest. So append, sphere, and then start sculpting. So this is like the chest. Let's say this is a chest area. Oops. So this is a general idea. Use big shapes first to build on your object, more or less. And start adding the other limbs. Let's say maybe you can use a another cube for the shoulder area. And this could be the collarbone. So you keep adding up until you have something. Since that will take a while, I did pre-sculpt something the other day to save on time. Let me load it. Invention. So save on time. Since I need something the other day. Invention is yeah, I should have it here. Yeah, there's something pre-sculpted the other day. Or at least I don't have to still step. But generally, how I got this was the same as this one. You start building on shapes until you get the more or less forms you're looking for. Then you hit on merge, merge down. Always skip this step. Click on Control Shift F. Make sure you're selecting the right objects. Merge down again. See, as you can see, it's combining the objects. Merge down again. There we go. And I would hit Dynamesh. Mm, Again, Control W. And basically start sculpting little by little until you get the shapes you need. But this will take some time. So I already pre-made something the other day to make. Already pre-made something the other day so that you can just use this. So let's export this so that we can use this body sculpt we did the other day. Let's just call it body sculpt. Um, body sculpt. Body sculpt. Yeah, let's call it body sculpt. Let it save. Let's go back to the other one. Go back to append. So to append, just pick any random object. Make sure you have selected the new random object you have. And you click on import. We have body sculpt. Oops, way too big. Okay, we need to scale down. Let's fix the size. So go back to scale. Yeah, way too big. Much better. Yeah, that we have to set something to work with. I have to save one time at least. We can move on. Let's switch us out a bit. Follow so far. And then,
Yep. We will entertain Q&A or further questions later for the benefit of those who will watch the replay.
samples I'll just share them later. Maybe after na lang. But for now, yeah, medyo na-concentrate Sculpting. Smells a bit. Now, I didn't detail the body too much since it's obviously wearing clothing, so we covered the clothing anyway, so no need to detail the body way too much. And since we're just going over the tools on naman eh. So for the clothing, there are many ways to go about it. You could go with if you're used to using another software like Maya, you can bring stuff in or bring stuff out, or you can use another software that's called Marvel's Designer. It's another software used often for clothing. But yeah, since this is a ZBrush talk, we'll just try to do everything in ZBrush as much as I can. So anyway, let's try making this. What do they call this? Plot? I don't know what these things are called. This this part. So a few options. You can try sculpting from scratch. Maybe you can use a cylinder. Oops, sorry. Cylinder. Use a cylinder. Try to get the shape in. That would be too much time. So how I go about this is better to use masking at this point. So let's start with this one, the one on the left side. So let's mask this part first. Yeah, oops. Set it to. Let's start with this part. There we go. Now let's set it to this part. There we go. So let's enter here. Okay. Then Control Alt so that I'll unselect the other part right below the armpit area, more or less. There we go. So now I've maxed that. Remember, we only want this part. So Control left click. There we go. And I would duplicate this first. so that I have a copy. Okay, and then we go to masking, go to subtool, split options. Split is basically you're separating your polygons or your meshes into different parts depending on your settings. So right now I'm gonna set it to split to mask points. So what will happen here when you split the mask point, just all this part will be split from the rest of the mesh. So let's solve it first. So if I split on mask points, what will happen? This part will be separated from the rest. So let's split that. Oops, cancel. Split mask points. So there. So now as you can see, it's two separate parts, but we only need this one. So now let's delete this one. So this won't be needing this anymore. Delete. Let's give it a different color so that it will be much more visible. Let's make it blue. Blue, 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 blue. Almost visible. There we go. There we go. So let's start with the weird, whatever that thing is called. So after I split it, I go to geometry, Dynamesh again. So, oops, option one, you can sculpt it if you want manually. Oops, sorry. Also, when you're sculpting, make sure, let's say if you don't want to change the color while you're sculpting, make sure none of the MRGB, RGB, and M is highlighted. Make sure that's not set on. So that way, you only sculpting and not doing any coloring. So that's one way of doing the scarf. Scarf? It's not a scarf. What is it? So wood. Now we do. That's one option one. You can only sculpt it from there if you want. No, you don't know the back looks like. There's no option. And then just sculpt it from there. And that's one option. Or another option is aside from sculpting it manually, after separating the parts you need, you also go under deformations again, and you got options here in inflate. Well, what inflate does is basically the same thing. Imagine a balloon when you inflate things. Yeah, that's the other option. And let's soften this a bit. It's a bit too. Let's flatten this a bit. So we can do draw size. Flatten this a bit. Oops. And as again, make sure none of these are selected so that each color won't change and only affecting the geometry, not the actual color. And so let's flatten this a bit. Another brush I often use is the flatten brush. And as it says, it flattens the sculpt and sculpting. Make it a bit more of a definition. I'm not going to go over detail with this because we're just trying to get to know the tools. Now, let's say you want to get this corner bit. Uh, Yeah, so it's a bit. Oops. Let's extend this a bit. Oops, sorry. Mhm. Let's extend this a bit. Let you. Yeah, probably extend this a bit from there. So yeah, these are just like the basic tools. Look at the little. Oh, sorry. There we go. So now that weird. So that's one option when you're doing clothing. You can like set mass parts. Uh, then from the body, then you can start sculpting from there. So that's one option. Other option is, wait, I'll save this first so that I don't lose progress. Let me save this first, just to be. Yeah. Also, would suggest try to save as often as you can, like maybe every 10 minutes or so, because ZBrush has a habit of crashing at times. Okay, so let's look at the other tools. So let's do this part, the other side of it. So other option to go about that. Let's go back to the main body. Let's deselect it first. Let's be sure to clear everything first. Let's auto saving. Clear. So again, we'll mask this part, the other side. Just mask the other side. What's around here? Around here. Yeah, that should be. Okay, so what are other options to go how making the other clothing? So we talked about first doing the masking option and then splitting, then use Dynamesh. Other option is from there you can also use. Let's just duplicate this first. Under geometry, poly, let's do. Oops, sorry. What is that? What are you? Wait, decide this first. Okay, let's talk about polygroups this time. Another useful feature in ZBrush is called polygroups. If you notice, every time when I press Shift F, the color of the object changes. Right now, it's all as one group, so it's only one color. But let's say I want to separate my mesh into different areas. So right now, I have one half selected for this area. So if I control W, what happens is this selected area will become a separate polygroup or separate area. There, notice it changed color. Let's do it again. Control Z to go back one step. Control W again. So the useful thing about polygroups is, let's say you're sculpting something and you only want to affect this part or a certain area of your mesh only. You can select by polygroups. You can only affect one certain polygroup. So under brush, you under auto masking, and then mask by polygroups. Set it to let's say 100%. So that way, let's say you have a symbol on the chest or something, and you only want that chest or to be only in one side or only in this area, or you're sculpting something you only want this area to be affected. So what happens when you say this polygroup, when you almost a polygroup, then you set auto masking to 100%. So we start sculpting. See, as you notice, Since I started on this side, when I try to move my mouse and my pen all the way to the other side, since this area is a different polygroup, it's not being affected. But let's say if we bring back my auto masking to 0%, the other areas are affected. So the useful things you could do with polygons from there, aside from making sure only certain areas are affected with sculpting, as I illustrate making this part. So polygroups, and then you go to just like the deformation tool earlier, we can go from there and go to split by polygroups. Subtool split by polygroups or split to sorry group split group split. Oh, actually, gonna okay, what actually never mind. This is just my mask. So this is master's part. So let's set this 100% again. Let's set to stroke to draw rectangle. There we go. So that page will be selected. Let's split max points. And then same thing earlier, how we did this. Go about going this and this. Or from there, other option is, let's go back here. Other option you can do is, oh yeah, panel loops. So other option is by panel loops. Then add thickness. Oops. This is master tool. So I selected this upper half first since we only want this one to be affected. So other option is under geometry. You go to panel loops. So what panel loops does, whatever is selected, it thickens it, it adds thickness. So if I hit panel loops, you see from a better angle. Or mm, oh, no. Ah, no worries. This is just a masking. Let's delete this. Oh, fuck, wrong side. Oops. Anyways, so other option is, let's say you already made, mhm. Other option is, earlier what I did was I dynamesh for this one after I split it. So after I make the part, you could also use on panel loops under here, panel loops. So what panel loops does is it adds thickness to the object. So let's say if I set it to a higher thickness, and maybe let's set it to zero point 0.4. Too high. There we go. That's a bit of thickness to it. Uh-huh. Another body. Let's make it the same part as the other one so that it'll be easier to spot. Color, make sure RGB, fill object, and it's easy to spot. Fix this a bit. Oops. Follow so far that yes, happens a bit. Yeah, a little bit because this should be the one overlapping and the other one. Keep in mind though, when you use we use panel loops. What happens with the mesh also is it subgroups the center from the bottom and top half. So see this? Yeah, that's separated. So it's a separate poly group compared to the top one. So now let's put using oops. Let's open this one. Yeah. Follow so far. Oops. Let's use the brush tool instead. Yeah, that's fine. Let's bring it down to maybe three. That should do. So let's cut it from there. I'm gonna go full detail with this because we don't have time to finish the entire character. I'm just going over the usual tools I use. No, I'll just say something like that. Oops. So follow so far. Mhm. Just fix this a bit. Oops. Everybody else have a question so far? So, how much is it? I have to discussion. Okay. So yeah, basically I did two ways to do the building. So let's go back to how I did it. So basically how I did this again was let's just say so remember how I did this one? So I masked first which areas I need, then went on the split, mask points. For this one after I split it, I added thickness by using Dynamesh. As for the other one, I added thickness for this one using panel loops. Okay. Now let's say you wanna add this trimming. What do you call this? Whatever trimming part. Let's
Possibly
do the
edge
one.
trims.
Yeah, this is the one here. This is the one here now. The one on the left side. Let's do the one on the left side. So the same thing. I would mask this part, just the edging, because we only need this one, so we only need this one. So anyway, One option is I would probably mask this area. Oops. Set it to freehand. Mask this parts. I was gonna do a really quick rough since we just need an idea how ways to do it. Not gonna too much detail. Just do a quick rough. Maybe something like that. Maybe don't need this. Let's start here. So I have no idea what the back looks like. It's just no back. It's just the artwork. And before I start splitting this, always make sure I make a duplicate in case I make something goes wrong. At least I have a backup. So now, again, earlier as I mentioned, Control F so that you can see the polygroups, and Control W so that whatever you selected will be a different polygroup when you hit on Control W. There. So this will use for the edging. So again, the same how we did the body, split, these points. Oops. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Group splitter. Group split. So group split. There. Yes, it's object according to group. Let's turn off solo again. There. And if I'm adding flake. Oh wait, vanish. So separate ko na siya. Other option to take in this, we can go under ZBrush. Modeler, there we go. Yeah, another useful tool used often in ZBrush is the Z modeler. So under that, right click. So when you right click on Z modeler, it gives you options how you can manipulate you can manipulate polyfaces, edges, and such. But now we want to extrude this area because this will be the trimmings. So after separated it, right click, make sure you're clicking on the face, over face, because the thing about Z modeler is depending on what you have selected over. Let's say if I right click over a face, the options are for the face, but if I click over a vertex, the options are different again. It's only for the vertex. If I click on an edge, because the options are for the edge. But right now we want to thicken this, so we'll go under face, then we go under extrude. Extrude there. Make sure set to polygroup all so that all polygons of the same color will be affected. So when let's say if I extrude one polyface, since it's the same color as everything else, we'll group according to the same color. If you left click on this, it should extrude everything else. There we go. Ta-da. Now let's make a different color so that it'll be much more better to see. Let's make it a darker color. Yeah, let's make it something like this. Really cool. Oops, sorry. That's one option of doing it. Then from there, I'll probably smoothen hitting Dynamesh again. to Dynamesh over here. There we go. And we can simulate from there. So that's one option. Follow so far. To smoothen, hold on to shift. And your brush should change to a smoothen. So what smoothen does is basically, yeah, what you do to clean. You smoothen it. It's the same idea. It smoothens it. So that's one option. Or other option of going about, let's say, areas like this. Let's do another doing that part. Let's use this part as example, the one over here. Let's duplicate this first, or let's duplicate so that in case I mess up, I have a backup. Again, let's select this trimmings over here. Okay. Select the trimmings over here. Let's just do one side. So we're not trying to do the entire thing. Follow so far. Yeah, we do from there. Control W, so it's separate polygroup. So I have a separate polygroup. Mhm. Let's go back to the yeah, this is about the money. Let's see what I'm looking for. Are you? What's up, Branch? What's up, Branch? What is project? Something. Mm-hmm. Fine. It's nope. Mm-hmm. This place, not this place. This one. This thing was I'm looking for. Check the quality, you know. Oops. No, not you. You need to move something. Matchmaker. Other option is we could also use a matchmaker to do trainings. Japan. So Q. Oops. Oh, geometry. Dynamesh. Okay. Here's another tool I use at times. It's called a matchmaker. I sometimes use this tool for, let's say, if you have a symbol, or you want something to you want something to follow the form or something. So let's say this is the Trinity example. Change the color from as visible. So let's make it red now. Make it more visible. And there's another option you can do. Hmm, Oops, oops, visible. Vinyl mesh, and then matchmaker. Oops, make sure this is off. So it doesn't change the color. And this another option. You can just matchmaker as you can see here. Extend, extend this a bit. Unlock, center pivot to wherever selected. Expand this, extend this a bit. Maybe around here. Okay, let's fix this a bit. Mountain source. Okay, so matchmaker again, matchmaker, put up here. Here is a matchmaker. Hmm. Okay, bring the intensity a bit. Set it to freehand. It's still too strong. Go to weak. So that's one of the other ways you can do trimming. So we did. So here we did the masking, and then we did the masking, and then we used Z modeler to add thickness for the ones here. Other option here we also use the matchmaker tool. So in the processor phone. mm, So other options you can do is using the topology tool. Let's use what our first can use as example. Let's use the belt. Mm, Let's go for the belt example. And cylinder. So parent cylinder. Blah, blah, blah. It's a bit chubby, right? Hmm, a bit more attention. Oh, this is a bit. This is this for the belt. So Dynamesh, this looks better. Any questions so far? I mean, here so far. So there we go. So to move to, let's a bit. Okay. Well, there we go. Activate symmetry, make sure you're on the right settings. Ignore that. Okay. What else can we talk about? Let's talk about the other brushes. Other things with the brush. This is the head example. You can also add folders by the way, it's a subtools. So to add folders in your subtools, just click on any object. Let's try grouping the clothing all in different sub folder. Making so that easy to look for. So under here, then under new folder, and in the folder, let's make all the clothing one folder so it'll be easy to navigate to the file, navigate to the meshes. Clothing. Okay, making so that easy to look with. I'll just put all clothing one layer for now. That way, we don't to look for. Okay, okay, and let's make the head a different folder. That'll be easy to look for. There we go. That way, yeah, makes it easier to look for. Okay, next. So already group the layers, already group the subtools. Okay, so maybe next question might be, some of them asking might be, let's talk about textures. Let's see how we add textures like scales, and things like those. Let's use the head as example. So let's go back to the head. So let's click the head again, Control F. There we go. Let's assume that you're done sculpting the head. You got the shapes in. Now you're gonna move to the finer detailing. As I mentioned earlier, always double check your active points. Right now it's at 253K, and that's pretty low. So it's pretty hard to sculpt in details from there. So we need to increase the poly count. Let's set it to maybe I don't know. Let's use the divide option so that we can control the subdivision levels. Maybe let's set it to 2M should be fine. Let's say you want to add scales and such. So this is where alphas come in, or downloadable brushes. So I actually have a folder in my desktop that usually has a lot already pre-downloaded a lot of different alphas and different brushes. So that every time I'm working on a project, I have a certain thing. So under brushes, ZBrush brushes. Let's try skins. Skin alphas. Wait, it's an alpha. Oops. Okay, let's go to alphas. Import. Yeah, with the brushes, I mean, wherever you wherever you save your brushes, wherever you downloaded them. So let's use. Where's my these names? Spin alphas. Where's his snake? So here I already have downloaded just a bunch of brushes from time to time. Let's use these ones. There we go. So yeah, let's say assume you're done sculpting the head. You got all the forms in, whatever you want to do. So increase the active point so that you can sculpt and find the detail. So go back to your brush tool or clay buildup, whichever you want to use. Under alpha, so let's try using this one. Oops, too much. Just bring down the draw size. So you can either freehand it if you want. Let's move a bit higher on the speaker. That's one option to freehand it. But at times I prefer going by drag rectangle. At times I have better control where I want to position them. Mm, and increase the alpha Z add to maybe 1 times. This will be more visible. That's a general idea. Try to get their basic shapes in first. Then after you got them, then that's when you start adding the details, the finer details. Right. Oops. Anyway, this one option. Details. What are those we can use? Okay, so we save this just to be. um, Okay, let's see. Okay, let's look for a few more other tools. Okay, let's talk about the Z modeler tools a bit. So let's model. Oops. Right. So let's scope the one of the shoulder piece a bit and talk about the few other tools I use. So the shoulder guard thing. So and actually This one I probably use Maya, but yeah, let's try it with ZBrush. Let's see if I can do it in ZBrush. Okay, so we hit Dynamish again. So let's copy this. Sure. Trim. Okay. Usually I think of it as parts, so we would add another cylinder for this one, and the one here, and another here. So we go on the cylinder. Let's make it a new layer. Let's make it a new folder first, so that'll be easy to look for. Okay. Mhm. Oops. Ah, okay, so let's start adding this in circle areas. What you should do it is think of it as parts. Let's move away from there. Oops. 90, let's size it. It's somewhere, oops, it's somewhere around here. Let's expand. And another one over here. Somewhere around here. Give or take. Let's take a look at these layers first. Because parts. Scale. Scale, there we go. I think I need to fix the shoulder part here. That's a bit too protruding. So it's at first. So it's kind of distracting. Um, Set it back to freehand. Alpha. Set it back to square. Expand this a bit. This is whipping, distracting. Video compression. Turn off. This bit. Hmm. Okay. Okay. And cylinder. Shapes first here. Let's try to get the shapes in, not to get too much over the details. I don't know what it looks like. I have no idea. Let's turn off everything else first and just focus on the shoulder. Turn it off first. Turn it off first. Maybe that is another way. Okay. Um, no. Mhm. Okay. Well, anyways. So now let's get. Some more. Okay. Let's try to get the shapes. Okay, so two. Vinyl mesh. Control W, so that we want to. There we go. Let's add a bit of, yeah, the curve here. Let's turn up this part first. Let's set it to solo first. Ah, solo pa rin natin po. Hindi ka dapat kasama. Oops. Oops, it's on my neck. Dapat kasama. Let's split your body. There we go. Is everybody follow so far? No?
Yes, yes, learning a lot.
Okay, so thickness in the bottom because it's a bit thick on the bottom. Yeah. Oops. Now I just need the basic shape for now. Mm. The shoulder arm actually will probably do it in Maya first, model in Maya, but yeah, since the topic for today is ZBrush, yeah, try to stick to using ZBrush. Okay. Okay, sculpting. Now, for armor stuff like the one here, there are a few ways to go about it. There's another method. Let's see some to do like armor, clothing, or you want this to be, you want this to be, smoother. So let's say you sculpted out of shape already, something like this. So what would you do is, and first you go tool, Z sphere. Okay. Hmm, First, we need to make this. Okay. Make a copy first. Z sphere. Hmm, yeah, Z measure. Okay. Yeah, other options Z measure. So let's do it first. Let's go about the G. Let's go about G modeler a bit. So, what we can do is mm, G modeler, Z measure. Let's say I want a sharper curve here. So another tool is the Z. Okay. So another tool that we use often is the Z measure guide. So what this does is you lay out lines on your mesh so that when you activate Measure, it will fix the polygons, polyfaces, topology according to where you put the lines. Okay, let's just do one part so that you'll get what I mean. Let's do one here. So as you can see right now, the polyfaces, let's go down a bit, Polyskita, 32. This is 32, so we much see. So as you can see right now, the polyphase edge flow, it's a bit random, so there's no set flow yet. So what the ZU measure does, it gives set lines on the mesh so that you'll follow a certain flow. When you hit ZU measure, should follow a certain flow. So you can curve it. So the ZU measure, geometry, ZU measure, hit ZU measure. Wait for it to compute. Let's add some more. Let's want to speed up. Measure. Okay, let's bring the target poly count to a lower one so that the more visible. There we go. So as you can see, the way with the Z machine, it follows that flow. So the thing is, what we could do with this is, example, I want this one to be sharp. Let's say this edge. Let's fix it a bit more just to be sure. Oops. So the Z mesh. Okay. Let's fix this a bit more. let me see. Let's say I want this short, 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 short. And put the lines to flow in this direction. That way, let me add. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So let's say I want this side to be sharp. So we can do some Z remodeler. Wait, Z modeler. Okay, make sure you're clicking on an edge. Right click and crease. So you have options of edge to partial, edge to complete. Let us stick to edge to partial. Oops. Wait, so crease. There we go. So you'll notice if it's crease, if it has a double line. And make invisible. So that way when I hit on the dynamic subdivision, dynamic, and increase the smooth count. If you notice, yeah, it remains sharp. That's what we do in the sharp corners. Okay, that's option one. That's one of the options. Assuming you just copy the rough shape of this thing. Or other option is yes, let's add a bit of density. Uh, Okay. Ah, not a mesh. Oops, too low. Let's make maybe 67. That's right. Okay, other option is so let's say other option to do armor is let's say you've sculpted a rough shape na. Okay. Example lang, let's say you already sculpted a rough shape. So from there I would export it, just save it somewhere. Let's see that. Let's just call that shoulder armor rough. So we go back to the Z sphere earlier that we have here. So we go under ribbon, select mesh. Wait. Sorry. I mean, after we made the rough shape, make polymesh 3D. So we should have a copy on its own. So go back to the Z sphere. On the Z sphere, you go to rigging, select mesh, and you select the rough scope you made. So it should appear there. Yeah, there we go. So follow so far. This method though is a bit time consuming, but honestly, for a lot of hard surface stuff, if you're gonna do it in ZBrush alone, it's pretty useful. It's one of the more better ways to go about it. It's a bit time consuming though, that's the downside. So anyway, so after rigging, select mesh, and you pick the one that you make up editable mesh. So the one we made earlier, so this one. Anyways, so under topology, you click on edit topology, and you basically, if you're familiar with standard, I mean basic 3D modeling, you basically now modeling it. Let's just do one part so that you get what I mean. So sort of time to do the entire thing anyway. Let's just do maybe this portion. Let's do this portion. Oops. Ah, ah, this, yeah, this one is a bit time consuming. There's only downside. So basically, what you're doing here now is, if you're familiar with basic 3D modeling, you try to draw out the shape of what you're. You basically reach into the edge of your model, so that later when you start piecing things, it'll be a lot easier to control. So to draw lines, left click, always make sure your topology is set on edit topology. And then left, oops. Okay, 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 okay. Then move. You can also use the tools for move scale here. Oops. Just set on draw. So one of doing this. But yeah, this is very time consuming. So we're just gonna do once. We're just gonna do just one part. Now let's just do one corner. Let's just do one corner so that you all see what I mean. Anyway, so let's just do this corner. So let's just assume that you're already done remodeling the piece or the entire thing. So let's just go to adaptive skin, preview, double check, and click on make adaptive skin. So when you hit on make adaptive skin, depending on what you already modeled, there should be a new tool that should pop up. So should be the one here. There. Okay. Let's switch it to a higher lower density. Let's go to adaptive skin again. Let's set it to 1 density. To check how it's gonna look like after you make adaptive skin or turn it to a poly mesh, click on A. Hey. So let's hit the adaptive skin again. So we should have something. No, the bids are not right. Let's try it again. Oh yeah, and also make sure you set your dynamic resolution to 0. I got to check that earlier. So let's make it adaptive skin. So what's the new one? Oh, there we go. So Z sphere here. So when you hit the adaptive skin, there should be a new message should pop up on your under your tools. So in this case, it's just one. So I can do now. Let's go back to the main model. So right here. So let's hide this first. Append and our new object should appear here. Latest one. There we go. Let's click on that. So example, like in the artwork here, if you notice this curve is creased. So back to Z modeler. Modeler. There we go. Make sure you're clicking on the edge, right click, crease, edge to partial, and then left click. That way, when you hit geometry, dynamic subdivision, dynamic, increase the smooth level a bit. Yeah. So there. Let's change the color para mas kita. Clear. Do you get what I was trying to do? So that's one way of doing armor parts, like here. So yeah, it's a bit time consuming. So you didn't do the. It's a bit of a time consuming method, but yeah, you get better results. So that's one of the armor parts, like the curve here. Let's say you want that to be short. So you like make a rough sculpt of the object first. Then from the rough sculpt, you go to from the rough sculpt. Let's review. So from the rough sculpt, so from the rough sculpt, you click on make poly 3D mesh. So what will happen is it will make a copy. Like in this case, it made a copy right here. And after it makes a copy of it, you go to Z sphere. You make a Z sphere. Okay. And from Z sphere, you go to rigging, select, and you click on the copy that you made, which space is this one. And after you make the copy, it should show up something like this. Oh, mhm. Show something like this. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's it. Again, that's right. That's good. Yep, that's yes. Oh, yeah, that skin. Oh, yeah. Shut up, everything. Okay. Oh, shit. Ah, nawala siya. Well, anyways, after rigging, select mesh, So should become transparent. Yeah, here. So after you select mesh, you go to adaptive skin. What preview? You go to topology, edit topology, and you basically model it. Then after you model it, you go to adaptive skin, preview. Yes. Sure. Anyways, so what else we can talk about? Hmm. Okay, so that's what I'm doing armor parts. So just review again. So after reading select mesh, okay. What else? Just reading the comments. Okay, next. Let's go back to the new model. Okay, let's run on everything again. Any questions so far?
I have questions here, Aiken, but later na lang after you're done with
Yeah.
everything. Not to disrupt your flow.
Okay. Yeah, so this one is doing armor. So let's just do a quick review. So after you sculpted like the just sort of shape, so you go make poly 3D mesh. So what happens when you make a poly 3D mesh? It will create a copy of it as a single piece, which is right over here. And after that, you make a Z sphere, which is right over here. Oops. So after you make a Z sphere, you go to rigging, select mesh, then you pick the copy, which is this one, then you start modeling it. Yeah. Okay, what other things? Let's go back to color thing. Let's see, those are the tools I usually use if just working within ZBrush. But yeah, at some points I try using other software to update the workflow. Like example, actually this armor piece, I would probably have modeled it in Maya first, get the rough shapes in, and then bring it to ZBrush and then detail it from there. Else, booleans, yeah, booleans. Another useful tool I use in ZBrush is the booleans option. This is an example. We can use the booleans here. These are booleans. Let's say this one is a whole. Example lang. Let's just show this as example again. Let's isolate you. Let's make it a separate layer so make things easier to work with. New folder. Let's call this booleans example. Boolean sample test. So show example booleans. Sample test. How to save much? Save it. Okay, so Let's turn off everything else first so that you won't get confused. Just focus on the shoulder armor thing. Okay. So another useful tool I tend to use in ZBrush is booleans. So let's say this part is a hole. So what you can do is append again. Oops. Cylinder. Let's use this blender. Put it there. So we should put that on. Oops. Wrong object. So we can go over here. Booleans. So under booleans, in this one, click on live boolean over here, and then you have option of subtract. That's one, or intersection. Whatever parts are intersecting, we'll create a mesh from there. But let's say, yeah, you wanna make a hole using the cylinder as a guide. So after setting to subtract option, we go under booleans, make boolean mesh. Okay, to complete a bit. So after that, a new object should appear. There. Just be careful though when you every time you make a boolean cut or subdivision, cut or intersect, whatever is affected area, it creates a new polygroup under that. For W on mesh, and then you can add it back in. And append, and it should appear. Yeah. Okay. So this other useful tool is the booleans. Else, we talk about. But yeah, these are the usual tools I go with ZBrush. The general idea. Let's turn on the layers again. Let's just also, another thing about folders is you can also move things according to my folder. Let's say you put all your clothing in one layer, but like what I did here, I put them all in one folder. Right click on this gearbox thing, left click, and click on transpose set. What that will do is, whatever's within the same folder, it will affect it. So since all the clothing I put them in one folder, so if I move this, it should only affect the clothing layer. Maybe the mask. But first, I gotta get rid of the mask. So mask and stuff first. Clear, 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 clear. Let's just unmask first. This mask. No, still mask. Still mask. Wait, naka-mask pa. Oh, okay, so, there we go. See? To, to unlock transpose set, you go see this bars thing, just click on it. It will go back to selecting one object at a time. There we go. Um, Yeah, but those are basically most of the basic tools I use here. It's just a matter of, yeah, just using those basic tools and just start building up to the picture sculpting. Mm, okay. Alright. Okay. Now, depending also on the situation, usually when you make sculpting for, depending if it's animation or 3D print of a statue, usually if it's animation, you have characters talking, so the eyeballs will be a separate piece, the inner mouth will be a teeth, tongue, whatever will be in a separate model separately. So let's just assume this character will be talking, maybe in a show or something. So you have to separate the lower, the lower parts, I mean the lower jaw from the inside parts. So let's focus back on the head. Let's turn off everything first. Let's focus on the head again. But first, I need to turn the subdivision first. Uh, so what I would do is also to hide things, you can hide visibility. Just also hide parts by the way. So under visibility, oops, so you want to hide the lower jaw first, so we can add the mouth. And we can add the inner mouth. So select the lower part, hide part, oops, wrong part. There we go, hide part. Maybe do it for this one. Okay. There we go, so you can hide stuff. So let's say you need to sculpt the inner parts. So this is the lower gums area. Actually, I think I need the. This is. There we go. Yung sculpting kasi, if it's, you have to know if it's meant for animation or 3D printing, or if the cat will be talking and such. Because if let's say yeah the cat will be talking, so they need the inner parts to be different or a different mesh, the teeth, gums, whatever. So what I would do, yes, like I hide the lower part of the jaw first, and start sculpting the gums. Just like a really quick rough sculpt. You don't need to like go over the every detail on it yet. Oops. Hmm. No, again, I'm just going through most of the tools I use because obviously we won't be able to finish the whole character in just one second. Just a really quick, rough, dirty tools I usually use. For W to make it one mesh. Modify, mirror world, activate symmetry. Uh, so does everyone follow so far? Uh-huh. The denser.
Yeah, learning a lot of techniques from you, Aiken.
Just oops. Oh yeah, and also when you're sculpting, another setting you should be careful is on the brush is backface mask. So what backface mask does is basically it makes sure when you set it to let's say 100%, it makes sure that whatever is sculpting below won't get affected. For example, sometimes consider when you're sculpting, if it's too thin, whatever below will get affected. For example, I want to take in this, but since this portion is pretty thin, so the bottom part will might get affected. So if it's backface masking to off, let's say I want to take in this part, it's also gonna affect also the bottom part. Yeah, it's affecting the bottom part a bit. There you go. So you see the difference if I activate backface masking and if it's turned on. So this another this another setting should check out from time to time. Let's just do a rough sculpt. Let's just go. This is imagine just like the upper gums. But it doesn't matter say sculpting. Just try to get the basic shape of everything first. Don't think about the details yet. And go back to subtool, a pen. Let's add some teeth. Just some rough, random teeth here and there. Oops, wrong layer. There we go. Okay. Yes. Ah, mm, okay. Mm, so just dynamic it again. Okay. Alright. This video. This one again. Look, basically that's yeah. Just try to get the shape of everything and just bit by bit. Okay. Message ito. Mm, flat. Okay. So just add teeth, detail the teeth. Mhm. Okay. Alright.
Okay, so I think we learned a lot, no? A lot of techniques here from Aiken. So let's have a ano muna, no? A quick break. And then afterwards, we'll do Q&A and end this session. So stay tuned for part two. We may probably have part two. And please make sure you have registered for us to update you, no, on the certificate and for the upcoming part two. So giving everyone a time to do bladder break. So giving everyone at least 5 minutes. Okay. Afterwards, we proceed with Q&A. Okay. See you later, Sir Aiken. Ayan, okay. So now we're back. Let's do a recap, Sir Aiken. What happened?
Okay. Let's see a quick recap. So we started with the head. Let's go back to the all the way back to the head. Okay, so quick recap. So we started obviously with ZBrush with the PowerPoint thing. Then also went to basic interface. So important points you have to remember. You, like I said, always keep track of your active points because yeah, then body mesh density is very important here. Also, your brush is on the left side. Keep track of your subtools over here. Get your folders. So let's turn off everything first. Let's start with the head. So we started with this portion. Let's turn the visibility button first. Okay. So we started with a cube. Then we started slicing using the brush tools to get to the round the shape. Then we added the horns. Then using the move masking, we extruded the horns till we got the shape around here. Then from here, I showed the snake hook tool to get the pointed tip. So there. Then we used a bit of the crease tool over here to get a sharpened corner a bit. Okay. So what else? So then after that, we went over how I did base body first. Oops. Like I said, basically I started with shapes, just roughly slapping on different shapes to get the basic forms. Then hitting Dynamesh, so it'll be one mesh, then sculpting it a bit further down. But since the concept art, the character is wearing something, so just tug off shape of the body will do. Then from there, we went to masking to make the clothing. The clothing, there we go. So we used the masking So to start building the clothing, different ways to do it. We started with the one on the left side. Then after the left side, we went to the right side and showed you the other option is using panel loops. Then from panel loops, we went to the trimmings. So one way we did this one was masking and then using the Z modeler over here to add thickness. So to add thickness using extrude and making sure poly group all is set. So that's one option. So the other option of making things like trimmings is using the matchmaker over. What is the matchmaker? There, matchmaker. Using the matchmaker tool. So that's the other option. Then after the trimming, we started just really quick with the armor, like this shoulder piece. One way to go about it, which is you make a really rough sculpt of it. You really make a rough sculpt of it first. Like you don't need to go overly detailed, just try to get the rough shape. And from there, you go to make Polymesh 3D, which should make a copy of it, duplicate, which should appear. Then from there, you make a Z sphere. Then you go to topology. No, wait, sorry, rigging. You go to rigging, select mesh. Then you select the copy. Select the copy. Select the copy. Then from select the copy. Select the copy. Then from there, we go to topology and we basically edit topology and we start rebuilding it so that we start adding the crease option, it will look a lot much cleaner. Like here, only did one part for now since this that method takes time to do and we don't have a lot of time. So after we went to the shoulder armor, just a general idea how to make armor parts. I think we went to Z alpha brushes. So yeah, adding textures, different ways of adding texture to your sculpt using alphas. And then after that, we went just a quick run through using booleans also, using the shoulder armor against example. So you can use booleans to like maybe add details like holes, patterns. It depends on your creativity what you can do with it. And then from there, I think the last part we were working on was the mouth. We're adding the gums and such, adding teeth. Yeah, I think that's last left off that. So I guess we can move to the Q&A now.
Yep. First question I can is someone asked, what is the advantage when working with Maya?
For me, I find Maya is better for like I don't know hard surface, like mechanical objects, like maybe a gun, I don't know, weapons. For box modeling, I find Maya easier to do in Maya. ZBrush is really great for sculpting, but for hard surface stuff, I kind of prefer going using Maya first and then bring it to ZBrush. Like I said, this shoulder armor, I would probably have done this in either in Maya first, like get the shape, then do the creasing detailing in ZBrush. Or other option was like I showed here was with the rough shape, then you use the rigging, use Z-sphere, then topology tool, and then yeah, you crease and such. Next question.
What is the preferred file format of Maya going to ZBrush?
OBJ or STL, but I should prefer using OBJ.
Okay. Next question is your preferred ano daw, your preferred graphics tablet for using ZBrush.
Right now, I'm using a Huayon Canvas 16, but if you
Oh,
can afford it, yeah, welcomes to the best brand, but it's almost expensive.
okay. Next one, this one trips new users on again how to open or create a new document and how to save ZBrush.
Oh, I'm saving, I forgot to. Okay, so when you're saving a ZBrush file, you go under Tool, here, Save As. And then you click on Save As, make sure the file format is as a tool. So you check Properties, it should be a .ztl. Yeah, GTL.
Okay, .ztl. Okay, when saving your ZBrush
Yeah,
document.
and make sure you're saving under Tools. Make sure it's under tool options.
Ah, okay, under tools.
Yeah, this
Not
one.
on not the same with the typical Windows applications na on upper
No,
left.
no, it's not the same as a. It's not the same as a Windows app.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a big difference. How do you make ano daw? Things exact in ZBrush. Let's say you want to create a cylinder at 5 inches. Is there a like a measuring tool
For
or a way for you to exactly like in other CAD softwares like AutoCAD, if you mention 5 millimeter or 5 inches.
I would actually use Maya for that. There's
Ah,
another
okay.
advantage of Maya because in Maya you can get exact measurements. So when I export it, let's say I had some 3D printed projects that they needed a certain size. So let's say the client would say he needs a statue at let's say 5 inches. So I would make a cube in Maya that's exactly 5 inches and then export it to ZBrush and use that as a guide.
Okay. I guess that's the last question. So I guess uh what would we be expecting on possibly our next session, Iken?
I think we can talk more about the polypaint tips man, and maybe a bit more the Z modeler, and maybe using Maya and ZBrush since yeah my usual workflows I tend to use Maya combined with ZBrush.
Yeah, and I think some of our viewers are also curious on the ZBrush 2 substance
Ah,
painter going
Substance
back and forth.
Painter and Designer. Yeah, I tried
Yeah,
this software
yeah.
before.
So hoping you can touch on that on our next meeting and session.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. So with that, once more, good evening everyone, and we hope you learned something new. We hope we have inspired you. So again, registration link is in the comment section and description below. We will forward the condensed version of this live stream for the benefit of our registrants, and we will be sharing the file as well. So, sir, I can pa-share na lang po. Please coordinate with Miss Nelsie on forwarding that file
Sure.
for our learners to have a learning reference. So with that, once
Oh,
more, thank you, sir Iken, and thank you, everyone.
all right.